What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today I'd like to have a bit of a chat about Ironhide, if it's alright with you. You see, ladies and gentlemen, Ironhide is one of those characters that we got in Wave 1 and in Wave 2, so it's one that I would very much like to have a look at and ask, alright, but which one's actually better? Now, for the pedants among you out there, and I do not say this is a bad thing, I am a massive pedant, self-proclaimed, Ironhide technically wasn't in Wave 1, or to be more precise, it wasn't in Wave 1 boosters, it was in the Wave 1 starter set, but gosh darn it, I'm counting it anyway. And there was always something a little bit weird about Ironhide, because Ironhide actually had its own upgrade. We had Static Laser of Ironhide, which gave you +3 attack, but when the upgraded character attacks and it isn't Ironhide, you do 2 damage, and that's 2 damage every attack, which is very, very bad. But the only Ironhide we got in Wave 1, I think most people would agree, was at best underwhelming and at worst flat out bad. Now, it was a starter deck character, which means that it was never really intended to be good. It was intended as an aid to help you learn the game. It was a 6-cost character, which is cheap. It had an attack of 4 or 3, which is average or just below. It had a defense of 2 or 3, which is average or above. But it had a health of 7, which was very bad. Now, to be fair, a base defense of 3 is actually really nice. And you could really get some good stuff going here. And if you popped a Static Laser of Ironhide onto Ironhide, then all of a sudden you ended up with a 7 attack character, which is actually very high. That's almost double the average from Wave 1, bearing in mind it was a 6-cost character, which is 3/4 of the average cost. So that was really, really good, but you had to get the upgrade on. The lovely folks over at TFW, the podcast that sometimes covers the TCG and does so excellently, might I say. If you're not checking them out, please do so. They had a really good episode where they started talking about trucks with guns, which I think was a very nice way to put it. And certainly when you were in alt mode, and you put something like a body armor on there, so you had a defense of 3, and you were rocking tough 3, because it is a melee character in alt mode, you could do some tanking. It wasn't as bad as it was initially feared to be. There were uses for this. It just wasn't terribly inspiring. Plus, whenever you've got a high defense but low health, you are really at risk of what I like to term cheeky damage, things like Zap or Armed Hovercraft, and also Pierce. So something like Arcee would come along with Pierce equal to her attack, and Arcee is seeing more and more play, incidentally, as it goes along. I'm seeing more and more lists with Arcee in, and yeah, that would be a very bad thing. And then we got a new Ironhide, which came out in Wave 2, proper Wave 2, no starter set or any of that. Now, it was a combiner piece, which is used to make Optimus Maximus. The difference is that Optimus Maximus cheats, like in a very literal way. Optimus Maximus has too many stars. And the reason it has too many stars is because you've got Optimus Prime Gleaming Commander. You start the game in alt mode, and when you start the game in alt mode, you grab 3 Sentinels and put them in the KO pile. Cool. So actually, although it's a 6-bot team, it's really a 3-bot team, so these are going to be better than your average combiners. And if we put these side by side and just have a look at the stats, new Ironhide kind of seems to run away with it. Because in terms of health, you've got 3 more. In terms of defense, you've either got the same or 1 less. And in terms of attack, you've either got the same or 1 more. So new Ironhide has 1 more attack in alt mode, but 1 less defense in alt mode. And new Ironhide just has 3 more health. Now, admittedly, it's a 7-cost rather than a 6-cost, but the boost in stats here, I think, justifies that. I prefer the stats on new Ironhide. And, of course, and this is fairly obvious taking a cursory look at the cards, new Ironhide is not a vanilla character. When it's in alt mode, it's got bold 1. But worth noting, it's still got the attack of 4 and it's still a melee character. And that means that you can put Power Sword on there, and then all of a sudden you've got an attack of 4, and you're rocking Bold 4, and at that stage you've actually got a pretty gosh darned beefy attacker. Now, you've still got 2 defense, 10 health, which is slightly low, but not terrible. It's, average defense, just below average health, but it's below average cost. That's fine by me. But the combination of 4 attack and Bold 3, but then again, you've got the skill, so it's Bold 4. Yeah, I am 100% in favour of this. Now, in terms of being in bot mode, you do have a skill. And we're looking at Ironhide just as a standalone 7-cost character. It's a weird one. It's a Sentinel. So it's got a skill that activates when you flip it in the KO area. And when you flip it into bot mode in the KO area, each of your characters gets Pierce 2 until end of turn. Which incidentally is a really nice skill. Giving Pierce 2 is great. But you have to flip it into bot mode in the KO area. Now, the good news is, when you are on the field, there isn't really any need for it to be in bot mode like ever outside of a Sentinel deck. Because you're still a melee character, being a Sentinel is irrelevant, you're also a truck, you've got the same stats, and you've got Bold 1. Outside of a Sentinel deck, Ironhide's going to be in alt mode. Pretty much the entire time. So it gets KO'd, and remember that we have a new rule coming in now that we're into Wave 2. You are allowed to flip your characters in the KO area. The ruling, just to be clear, you can use your flip for the turn to flip a character in the KO area, but cards like Rapid Conversion will not work because cards only affect cards in the KO area if they specifically say so. Now, the good news is we do actually have combat commands. I did a video about this recently. I'll pop a link in the description. And combat commands lets you flip a Sentinel in the KO area into alt mode and then back into bot mode. So you get the skill. The problem is it's got to be put on Sentinels. And if you're playing Ironhide with a second Sentinel, you might as well just play Optimus Prime and go into an Optimus Maximus deck. So we're kind of ignoring that for the time being. We're looking at which Ironhide is just the better character. Obviously, in an Optimus Maximus deck, one of them is relevant and the other one will literally stop you getting Optimus Maximus. No. But just as a standalone, this is a moderately useful ability. I think using it once is pretty much a given. Like I've said, you want to be chilling in alt mode and then, well, I've been KO'd, I'm in the KO area, it means I've got access to PS2 whenever I darn well like. And what's great about being in the KO area here, your opponent cannot use a cornered to force you to flip. And your opponent cannot KO you before you get your skill rolling. You're already in the KO area, and these are things they can do to stop a skill that would come out from a character which is on the field. But I think you're only getting it once, because then that would be 2 more turns of flipping to get PS2. I'm not saying you'll never do it. I am saying you'll rarely do it. And of course, let's not forget that this one can also use Static Laser of Ironhide. So if we go back to this 4 attack, and then you get Bold 1, but now you've actually got Static Laser of Ironhide, you're up to 7 attack Bold 1. That's really quite nice. What I will say is, Static Laser of Ironhide is a weapon and Power Sword is a weapon. So it's whether you went +3 attack or Bold 3. If you're playing majority orange icons, Bold 3 is generally better. But the thing is, Power Sword has a blue icon, Static Laser of Ironhide has an orange icon, so you can go full attacking and not have to play the blue icon with Power Sword, which is quite nice. I don't really dislike the old Ironhide that much, which I know is not exactly the biggest compliment ever. But I like the fact that when you combine it with Static Laser of Ironhide, you've got 7 attack, 2 defense. And I like that in alt mode you can sit there with 3 defense and pop a body armor on. It's not that bad. But I think it's quite clear that the new Ironhide is significantly better than the old one. And bearing in mind it's a combiner piece, we're supposed to be saying, well, the combiner's not quite as good, but come on, it's a combiner piece, it's designed to be in a combiner deck, it's not really supposed to be a better standalone character, but no! I think it's got better stats, and it's got skills, and they're pretty useful. Even if you sit in alt mode rocking the bold 1 and then flip once to get PS2 after you're KO'd, that's still a decent use of it. Incidentally, before we finish, I should mention that new Ironhide is a melee character in bot mode. Old Ironhide is a ranged character, so it really depends where you're going, whether you want power sword and body armor, or whether you'd rather have stuff like the aforementioned armed hovercraft. I leave that up to you, ladies and gentlemen. I certainly think that the new Ironhide is a fair bit better, but I would be very interested to know what you think about this. So please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! But please do remember the rule, ladies and gentlemen. Be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, where we talk about games. Like Transformers. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.